Okay, we are good.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Kicking off the July 21st Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I will now call this meeting to order. I don't have my gavel here, but we'll go with that. And if you can join into the Pledge of Allegiance, I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance, but you're also welcome to just stay muted so we don't have voiceovers on everything. So I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Laura, would you please take the roll?
Vice Chairman McKnight.
Present.
Mayor Ring.
Here.
Alderman Whitmire.
Here.
Mr. Bolazina.
I am here.
Mr. Malin Smith.
Here.
Dr. O'Mill.
Here.
Mr. White.
Here.
I have Chairman Sema, Ms. Miller, and Ms. Munzel as absent. We have a quorum.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Did we make a motion to approve the minutes first and then make changes?
Yes.
Or do we just go ahead and approve the meetings? So let's, I have somebody
Motion
make a
to
motion for the
approve.
minutes.
Motion to
Thank you
approve.
very much. Thank you very much. There were a couple of Scrivener's notes that
I need
were pointed out.
I'm sorry, I need a second on that.
Go ahead.
Second.
Mr. Malin Smith.
Oh, sorry. I got you. Laura, you had a couple of Scrivener's notes. Can you go over what those quick changes were on page 2 and page 3, correct?
Yes, hold on one moment.
Sorry. To
So page 2, the first Scrivener's error is 5 paragraphs down. The last sentence, Mr. Redling Schaefer stated he is agreeable to removing the kick plate, not kick gate. I don't know what a kick gate is. And the second Scrivener's error is under page 3.
Section G, correct? Yeah.
Yes, the added condition G shall receive approval by MSD prior to the application, not applicant.
Okay. So those were two changes to make. Are there any other changes to the minutes that anyone would like to bring up?
I have a motion to make a correction on page 3. On, I guess we'll call it the third paragraph down from the top, having to do with the open air pavilion at the west side of the church. And it shall be no less than 100 feet instead of the written word no more than.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All let's see, all in agreement, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? All right. Any other changes to minutes? All right. All in favor of approving the minutes as modified, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Are all opposed? I hear the ayes have it. Approval of the minutes are approved as modified. Let's take us to the first. We have 4 items of business, 4 conditional use permits to go through today. So let's start with number 1. Conditional use permit, a request has been made by David Schaub of Schaub Projects applicant on behalf of Gina and Matt, I'm going to guess this, Bremier, owners for approval of a conditional use permit for the private stable located at 13731 Bellcrest Court in the Suburban Estate zoning district. Do I have a presenter for this project, for this conditional use permit?
Yes.
Please. Yeah, please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. I'm Andrew Schaub. This is David Schaub with Schaub Projects. Our address is 5855 Runnymede Place, Imperial, Missouri 63052.
Okay. You want to go over what you've submitted, and then we'll take questions.
Sure. What we submitted was an application for a conditional use permit for a private horse barn for the owners at 13731 Bellcrest Court. The owners have a piece of property that's 6 acres that they are wanting to use a portion of to house their horses and have a small riding arena in place for them to graze. So we're proposing a horse barn that's approximately 2,100 square feet that can house up to 6 horses, but it's only going to be used for, I'm sorry, up to 4 horses that will be used for 2 typically. And yeah.
Well, we've designed a house for property also, and there's, you know, that's gone through the ARB and been accepted and everything, and we're looking forward to turning in for building permits in the next couple of weeks on that. Also, in addition to the barn.
Yeah.
Building. On
Yeah. So this barn is ancillary to the main home.
Okay. And just to make sure everyone understands the process, this is a conditional use permit in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission. If approved here, it'll go on to the Board of Aldermen where there'll be a public hearing. So everyone understands. I notice Mrs. Bramer is here, and I welcome to our meeting. So with that, let's move on to discussion and questions from the commission. Commissioners, anyone? Commissioner White.
I didn't see in the schematics accommodations for horse trailers and other vehicles that might be associated with this facility. Is there going to be a provision for those?
We do have plans to have a 2-horse carrier trailer parked under the lean-to the outside of the barn.
If you refer to sheet number 6 with the floor plan in the packet, there's a space we're referring to as the lean-to structure that's going to house a horse trailer.
So if I'm correct, then if it's there, it won't be visible from the street.
No, there's not a door or anything. It will be under roof.
Under roof, but not visible from the street.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the road. The road ends before you get to the end of the property.
Mm-hmm.
So you would have to, you wouldn't be able to see it from the street.
Oh, from the street. Okay. Other questions? Alderman Whitmer.
So just trying to clarify what this illustration. So if I look at the front elevation, the left side of that elevation is the lean-to structure to which you refer, correct? And am I looking, when I see those vertical lines on the surface there and that brick face underneath, is that actually the front of the building, or is that the exposure of the rear of the building that I'm seeing through the lean-to that you're describing?
The vertical lines underneath the heavy line of the lean-to roof, that is the building beyond that's in the set further back below.
Right. So it's a little bit of an illusion. It looks like that's the front of the building. That's not the front. That's the interior of the back of the building. So that's where you're saying that horse trailer will sit in that space.
Correct.
And if I were to drive down that road, I'd see that horse trailer in that hole. Right.
Correct, yeah.
The street ends before you get to that.
I'm sorry, if I walked down in front of the building.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Commissioner Malin Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Schaub, welcome. In our preliminary discussion, there was a question about the definition of the word biweekly under condition H. And I think for clarity purposes and for the record, what is the definition of biweekly? Is that twice per week?
Answer that, sir. And my intention is to have the waste picked up 2 times a month.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Bremer. I appreciate that. I wanted to be sure it was twice a month and that there wasn't a misunderstanding.
Absolutely.
Good. So let the record read that the condition H, the animal waste will be removed twice per month. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would direct this question to the two gentlemen, Mr. Schaub. I'm still wrestling with trying to reconcile the floor plan that's shown on page 6 with the front elevation on page 8 and the rear elevation shown on page 10. So I may be in the slow reading group, so let me explain my confusion and you can clarify it. When I look at the floor plan on page 6, if the front of the building is the lower portion of the page, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I see that as a flush front, straight across.
Correct.
Thank you. When I look at page 8, I'm trying to reconcile the eave, the pitch of the two eaves to the left of the front. And I don't understand how, if, for example, the lean-to portion on the left side is covered, I don't see that on page 8. So what am I missing?
You're not seeing the break with the continuation of the gable of the main mass of the building. Having a hard time visualizing how that line comes in, that fascia line. I'm doing that with 2 different offsetting overhang depths. One overhang will be slightly deeper than the lean-to. The lean-to will have 6 inches of overhang. The overhang on the gable will have 1 foot of overhang. And so there's a 6-inch difference. And that's what's allowing us to have that roof continuation.
So in other words, the frame walls align, but the eaves, that there's a 6-inch difference in overhang between the main house eave and the lean-to eave, so that we could break up the fascia massing.
All right, or said differently, those 2 roof slants are the edge, the front edge are identical. They're both
Not the edges of the roof. The edge of the main mass of the barn projects farther out. The edge of the roof does, not the surface of the wall. The eave stick projects out farther than the edge of the lean-to roof. And that's how the one's able to pass in front of the other one.
okay. All right, it's not a ordinance related compliance matter, so I'll drop it. It's just a perception question that I have.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for the presenter? Commissioner White.
It seems that one of the variants on this particular structure is the height of the roof, which is 7 feet higher than we have in the ordinance. So we're going to have to decide on that. However, before that, I'd like to know how high is it intended to have the cupola above that?
Without the cupola, I'm sorry?
Yes, the top of the cupola.
Oh, to the top of the cupola, we are 30 feet, 2 inches, I believe is what it was.
So
Yeah.
another 7 or 8 feet.
Correct.
Okay. And in connection with condition H, will these storage bins for animal waste be lidded so there's no odor coming from them?
That would be the plan, yes. Yeah, we don't want to have any odors associated with that.
With the compost bins.
So I'll ask my fellow commissioners, should we add that into condition H?
Commissioner Rosina?
I believe the wording says closed composting bins.
Yes, it is closed.
That should be covered. Okay. Commissioner White, did you have any other questions there?
Yes, also connected with waste. Is there a plan to contain wash water that's used to clean down the stables? Or will that run into the storage pond at the bottom of the street?
Right now, the plan is to be able to hose the barn out and it just drain naturally onto the site.
I see.
Well, and also because we have a bathroom in the barn, it should be connected to city sewer.
The wash down water from the stables.
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Whitmer.
I guess a couple of clarifications. One was the height of the building, 23 feet 6 inches, and with a couple of 30 feet. Is that in compliance with our current code?
Is that
That is a
Mr.
question to
Spencer?
staff, I guess, to staff. Yes, please. I'm sorry.
There's no specific height mandated for a private stable, unlike a pavilion or a pool house, but it is in line with the overall height that's permitted in the suburban estate zoning district.
Thank you very much. May I continue?
Absolutely.
And then just want to acknowledge the letter that we got from an adjoining neighbor talking about the use of the property immediately west of this property, where he intends to probably develop that as a residence, but supports this development. I think that's important to point out. And then the last thing is around the clearing of land. I don't see a land clearance plan, and it seems to, by the plan, it seems to indicate that you're using existing cleared land. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
That's the end. Thank you very much.
Okay, that would lead us directly into Laura. Are there any other comments that were received that we should be discussing or should be brought up during this meeting?
There were 2 public comments that we did receive regarding this project. One was from Kevin Morrell and the other one was from Tiffany Fauci. And they will be attached to the minutes of this meeting.
And if I recall, they were both in support of the CUP. Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, any other questions? Commissioner Bolzina.
So can I ask the applicant, they mentioned the floor drain, which is a detail that's obviously not on these preliminary plans, but are we in agreement that some kind of a floor drain, kind of maybe a trough type floor drain near the barn doors would be something that it would be part of the final plan to accept this washdown water?
Absolutely. We would the floor drain to the sewer line.
Okay, so that you wouldn't mind having that as a condition under our recommendation for approval?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Bolzina, would you like to make a motion? Well, let's have a motion on whether we want to approve this CUP. Any commissioners, any members like to add that? Commissioner White.
Move
Yes,
to approve.
I'll forward it for approval.
Okay,
Second that.
Okay. And can I assume with that approval, you are saying with conditions A through H?
Well, no, wait a minute. I think we're getting a little ahead. First, we're moving to approve
No,
it
it'd be-
as it is, and then we're going to add some more conditions.
That's correct, Commissioner
Okay.
Bolazino, but the as it is has conditions A through H listed.
Okay.
So-
all right. So move to approve.
Okay, so approved by or moved by Commissioner White, seconded by Commissioner Romel.
Okay.
Right. Further questions or additional motions? Commissioner Bolazino.
Suggest additional conditions. The first being condition I, and that any fences indicated on the site plan shall be in conformance to the ordinances of town and country unless a variance is obtained.
Okay.
We can vote on
Do I
that.
have a
one, or-
second?
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. I think with that, let's go ahead and say all in favor of adding condition I. And Dennis listed it out under, I'll call it just fences for now. Say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. We will add condition I as defined by Commissioner Bolazino. Back to Commissioner Bolazino.
Yeah, then condition J would be that the final plan shall include a trough type floor drain installed near the barn door openings and the floor drain shall be connected to a sanitary sewer.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner White. Discussion. Commissioner Malin Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would direct this comment to Commissioner Bolazina. You included in your proposal that the trough be located near the barn door. We might want to not be that specific and allow the engineer and architects to decide the most efficient and productive location for the drain. I'm fully in favor of the drain, and I'm fully in favor of connecting to the sewer. I don't know if we should be specifying the precise location.
Yes, I would ask that be part of the agreement that we're entering into.
Commissioner Bolazino.
Well, the objective, as I thought Commissioner White was suggesting, was that we didn't want the water to go out the door. And so the most natural place to catch the water before it goes out the door is to put it at the door. So that remains my suggestion. It can be overruled if you choose to.
So there are several exits to the barn, and the intention is not to drain the water out of the main entrance of the barn. It's to just clean the barn and push the water toward the drains that will then be connected to the sewers. So I don't really want to make a commitment on the location of those drains or what they will be engineered to do, or location and all of that.
Okay. All right.
The Shaw Group, would you like to just comment on that for the commissioners?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I would envision more of a trough drain running down the center of the
Okay.
barn, that we could wash everything to the center of the barn and
Yeah.
down.
We
that way.
would slope the slab in two directions. And
All right. That will be fine. I'll be happy to amend the
Commissioner Bolazino, would you like to do an amendment to that?
the trough drain shall be located in a manner to accept the wash down water from cleaning the barn and be connected to the sanitary sewer.
The staff have that? Are they comfortable with that? Do I hear a second? Let me ask that question first.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner White. Laura, Ryan, you think you have that? Good. Okay. All right. That was J, do we have any other discussion on item J? All right, with that, I will ask all in favor of adding the drain component as defined by Commissioner Bolazina to the conditional use permit, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We'll add J to the conditions of this. Further discussion. Seeing none, and with a motion on the table for conditional use permit, Laura, would you please call the roll?
Dr. O'Mell,
Aye.
Mr. White,
Aye.
Mr. Malin Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Bolazina,
Yes.
Alderman Whitmire,
Aye.
Vice Chairman McKnight,
Yes.
Mayor Ream.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Bramer and the Straub Group for coming in. I appreciate it. And we will, I'm sure you will see this come up again at the commission, at the Board of Aldermen meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys.
Very much.
Moving on.
Mrs. Bremer, I have a question as an aside. Did your husband attend Parkway West High School?
Yes, actually, we both did. 99 and 97.
And he played left field
Yes, that's right.
with my son. I thought so.
Who is your son, so I can pass it along?
Scott, he was the catcher
Oh, wonderful.
on the state championship team of 1996.
You had to slip that in there, didn't you, Fred?
Yeah, just a minute.
Hey, Jeff, he learned it all from his mother.
All right, moving on. Item number 2, conditional use permit. A request has been made by Bradley Greer, owner, and approved for approval of a conditional use permit for a residential driveway gate located at 1502 Topping Road in the Suburban Estate Zoning District. Is there a presenter for this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my name is Chris Stuffel. I'm the attorney for the Greer family, also a family friend, been helping them out on this. They had a previous commitment tonight, so they asked me. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. If you could please give your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Christopher Stuffel, Stuffle. My office is located at 12647 Olive Boulevard, Suite 400, Creve Coeur, Missouri, 63141.
Okay. And if you could, could you give a quick overview of the request and the CUP that you have?
Sure. The conditional use is for the installation of 2 gates. The residence is on the corner of Topping and Post Oak. The driveway makes a semicircle connecting both of those. The proposal has both gates on each side in compliance with all 7 the requirements listed by the conditional use permit parameters. So I don't really see any big issues here. It's being done with a professional installation. They're in compliance with all of those.
Okay. And just before we get on to the commission, Laura, have we heard any, has there been any feedback from any comments from the public?
I have received no public comments in regards to this issue.
Okay. All right. To the commission, questions? Commissioner Malin Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Stuffel, welcome to our meeting. I'm going to dispute your claim that the application meets all of the city's ordinance provisions. Specifically, I'm referring to the gate on the Post Oak Road entrance. Condition A is shall have direct access to a major street, and that's not direct access to a major street. And our city ordinance was created with a very specific intent, and that is to limit gates to only identified major streets in town. Post Oak Road is a relatively quiet residential dead-end street, and I'm struggling with the need for a gate under those circumstances. So if you could please help me understand the need for the gate on Post Oak Road.
Certainly, because it is a semicircle drive that connects the two of them, having just a gate on topping really wouldn't provide any purpose. If you didn't have the other end gated, it's, easy access to the driveway either way. Post Oak, I agree with you. It's dead end residential street. I believe it's also a private drive, and I know of at least one other residence on Post Oak that does have a driveway gate.
Sir, just for common understanding, the gate that you're referencing elsewhere on Post Oak Road predates the creation of the ordinance limiting gates to main streets. And it was frankly that gate that precipitated the creation of the city ordinance. I think it's important and relevant to note that gates tend to be contradictory to the character of Town and Country. We very much treasure and encourage our openness. We have pretty strict limitations on fences in terms of their design and their location, again, to enhance and further the open appearance and open characteristic of our community. And so I do believe that a gate on Topping Road is justified. If there's a fear of people using that entrance as a turnaround, but that condition or risk doesn't exist on Post Oak Road. And so a single fence, I think, would be beneficial and justified, but not on Post Oak Road. And the fact that the residence has a Topping Road address, I think, is coincidental, but not sufficient justification for a gate on Post Oak Road.
I understand your argument, but as far as the issue, I mean, the statement within the ordinance is pretty clear that it's done for security purposes, and that's an issue of Post Oak has public access just like Topping, so there's nothing that would prevent someone from driving around that corner and entering the driveway. So that's their logic for it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I had the privilege of co-authoring the ordinance, and so I appreciate the element of safety, but I don't think it's applicable in this context.
I understand your opinion completely, and just presenting the logistics and the reasoning behind wanting to do that there.
Mr. Spencer, can you reiterate the condition on the Post Oak, the fence issue that they'd have on Post Oak in the first place? Can you just go through that real quick?
Certainly. If you approve a gate for Post Oak, the applicant would still need to receive a variance for any kind of fencing along Post Oak, as it's not a major street, which if it's a major street, we allow 50% open. The applicant has been made aware of that. So that would be the process.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion from the commission?
Mr. Chairman, if I may throw in there that they're on the conditional use item G does go exactly what Ryan was talking about there with the fence. And they are aware of, the process of needing to obtain a variance there as well. So this is by no means the end of the road. I think it's the beginning.
Okay. Yes, Alderman Whitmer. You're on mute.
I have a question of staff. Should I do that now or later?
Well, go ahead and ask the question.
So the question to staff is, how many gates are in residences within a half a mile of this residence on Topping Road?
Along Topping Road, staff has visually observed 6 gates.
Thank you. Back to the visual coherence of the neighborhood. I'm sorry, back to our code.
No, that's fine. Can I, before we get too far into this, can I get a motion to approve this that we can start discussing in more detail?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay. Seconded by Mayor Ream. All right, now discussion. Let's get back to it. Any other questions? Any other concerns? Commissioner White.
The schematics show that we're 25 feet away from Topping Road. However, the 2 pillars that are already there are less than 25 feet. I assume that new posts will be put up on Topping Road, on the Topping Road side to hold the gate. Is that correct?
Actually, we were informed that on Topping Road that those existing posts met the qualifications. So I believe the fence company had changed the plans to include that. However, with the fence still being needed for a variance, I don't think that's something that we can nail down until those all get done.
Well, we certainly can. I think that we're talking about the gate now, and the gate will not be in compliance if it's put on those posts that exist there.
Mr. Spencer.
I was just going to raise the point that the posts are existing in place currently, and the gate is going to be set back 25 feet from those posts. There's going to be fencing that extends out from the posts, and then you'll have the gate to allow for that distance.
Yeah, and that was my inference, but I wanted something specific from the applicant that would happen. The schematics are not detailed enough to be able to see that.
Yes, it is, as far as you're saying there, yes, it's just we don't know about the fence at this point.
Okay.
Whether or not we do anything with the fence, I would appreciate assurance that the gate posts will be more than 25 feet or more away from the road.
Yes, and that's actually reviewing it here. The proposal that I have says it is a minimum of 25 feet from the street.
Okay.
Other questions? Mr. Spencer, go ahead. You're on mute. Yeah.
I don't think we're on the same page here. The columns are in place. This existing house has been there for decades and decades. The gate will be set back 25 feet. There'll be fencing that'll extend from those columns, as I interpret it, to the gate in a legal location. And the fence can go there because it's along Topping Road. We're not talking about
yes.
We're talking about.
And I appreciate that.
Right.
I do appreciate.
So they can definitely fence off along Topping and connect to a gate 25 feet, the minimum distance required.
That's what I understand, and I do understand that.
Right. I think Brian's correct as far as making the kind of putting everybody on the same page. That the columns are not where the gate will be. But the plan is to have the gate set back to 25 feet and the fence go to them. So as far as the conditional use for the gate, yes, it's 25 feet back off of topic.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bolacina.
Yes, again, welcome, Mr. Stoffel.
Thank you.
You may take this as a plea deal because we not sure where this is going to go. I think there may be an opportunity that this could be denied because of the gate on Post Oak, or you could amend your application to not have it on Post Oak, and it sounds like it would be a lot easier to grant our recommendation. So just a suggestion, you don't have to do anything. It's just my observation from the temperature here.
Certainly. And I appreciate the recommendation and will definitely pass it along to the clients.
I think we do have an option here as well. If there's an additional motion we'd like to move or some amendment, some change we'd like to make to this conditional use permit, I would accept that now. So any commissioners have a change they'd like to make?
Well, if Commissioner Mylan Smith is not going to do it, I'll do it. And that is that the condition would be that there will be no gate on the Post Oak side of the driveway.
We have a motion to for condition H that would not that this request would not include a gate along the Post Oak side. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Malin Smith. Discussion.
Yeah, as has been brought up, the ordinance, I believe, is very clear, and Commissioner Malin Smith knows the history, and some of us others know the history of how we got to gates and under what limited areas we wanted to approve gates. And there was never any intention in that original ordinance. And as he said, it was in reaction to what happened on Post Oak Road that we decided we needed some kind of rules applied to gates. And this application would fly in the face of the whole purpose of our gate ordinance. So I suggest that for the members as they vote on this.
Commissioner White.
Just in the interest of exploring and carrying forward the discussion, not necessarily proposing anything at this stage. Gates on a subdivision road such as Post Gate, and even the ordinance, although of course Mr. Malin Smith was part of the original drafting, would seem to be applicable if the house was orientated towards Post Oak, and that was the front gate, in which case security to the back of the house could be achieved by side fences rather, which would go to the edge of the property line. By not having a gate on Post Oak, this house is vulnerable from a security point of view, and I can see that the owner's concerns about that, not only safety security, but also physical security, that the back of his house is in fact exposed.
Commissioner Rolazina.
I would like to suggest that 95% of the houses in town and country that don't have gates and fences are exposed and vulnerable. But that's the kind of community that we live in, and we don't build walls around our houses. I just don't think that there's any unique situation that's presented by this site plan that deserves a gate on Post Oak Road.
And in this case, I would add in that the concern I see from the letter is mostly about children running in the yard and children playing games in the yard. And I do see the risk on topping that would be a problem, but along Post Oak, I don't necessarily see that risk. So I find myself in support of this amendment, this change. Commissioner Malin Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I at the risk of repetition, it's important to also keep in mind that the creation of the ordinance was to be consistent with the way in which we manage other parts of our business, specifically fences, their design and their location, their size. And there was a distinct preference by the board at the time of the creation of this ordinance to avoid the creation of pronounced and numerous walled-in fortresses of residences in our town. And that's the impression that gates, if they are numerous, creates a series of walled-in fortresses.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? I have an amendment to the conditions, a condition H on the table right now that would remove the second gate along Post Oak from this conditional use permit. Do I have, I guess, Laura, would you call a roll on that?
Dr. O'Mell,
Aye.
Mr. White,
Aye.
Mr. Bolazina,
Yes.
Alderman Whitmire,
Aye.
Mr. Malin Smith,
Aye.
Mr. McKnight,
Yes.
and Mayor Reed.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
I now have an amended conditional use permit with conditions A through H. Are there any other comments, discussions before we move to a vote on that amended conditional use permit? Seeing none, Laura, would you call roll on that?
Mr. Bolazina,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Aye.
Alderman Whitmire,
Aye.
Mr. Malin Smith,
Aye.
Dr. O'Mell,
Aye.
Vice Chair McKnight,
Yes.
and Mayor Reed.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Stuffle, I appreciate you coming tonight and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to conditional use permit, or item number 3, conditional use permit. A request was made by Dr. Schneider, owner for conditional use permit for the residential driveway gate located at 13512 Clayton Road in the Suburban Estate Zoning District. Do I have a presenter on this item? Mr. Schneider, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
That better?
There you are. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Anyway, thank you for calling me doctor. I'm not a doctor.
Oh, sorry. Would you please just run over real quickly what you're requesting here?
Sure. So our residence is 13512 Clayton Road across from Longview Park. We have a circular driveway. I want to put a gate on both entrances. One's manual, one's keypad. We built this house in 2014. We had no intention of putting a gate in at the time, but since then we've had almost daily people turning in our driveway. We're east of Longview Park entry and entrance. We're west of Mason and Clayton. We're west of Mason Woods Village Center. We're west of Town Square Development. We're west of the fire department. A lot of people apparently make wrong turns and turn our driveway on a daily basis, including the Town and Country Police Department. We have I can't even let my pets out because I'm concerned they sit in the driveway, they approach cars. I'm afraid they're gonna get run over, which is my worst concern, although there's a security concern too. So with that in mind, I mean, it was kind of a last resort that I wanted to, need to put up a gate. We're complying with all your conditions. And let me see if I have anything else on my little dog and pony. I think that might be about it.
Any questions from the commission for the presenter? Do I have Mr. Malin, Commissioner Malin-Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Schneider, I noted that you were present during the discussion of the previous application.
Correct.
And so you had a chance to perhaps get some hopefully helpful background information on how our gate ordinance evolved. I just want to make a comment that in your case, sir, I think your gate request is fully and totally justified, given your location as you described it. And I understand and fully support that application because of your location. It's, I think, very evident.
Thank you.
Commissioner Malin-Smith, does that mean that you will make a motion to approve this?
Mr. Chairman, I always appreciate your foresight and organizational ability, and so I will make a motion to approve this application.
That with conditions A through F?
And just to clarify, that would be with conditions A through F, correct?
That is correct, with conditions A through F. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Let's go with Commissioner Bolazina, I think won that race, so. All right, discussion.
Oh, well, I don't care.
Well, who did I miss? Who should have had second on that?
I don't care.
Whoever you want.
Commissioner Bolazina has that.
All right.
Right.
Okay.
On to discussion.
The only comment I'd make is I have had reports of people with circular driveways who are not on a main street but are close to it that have had real issues with people tearing through there and just kind of laying rubber on it. And not everybody in town and country is thoughtful. And so I definitely support this, especially since it's on a main road. But this is an issue in circular driveways on some of the side streets also that hopefully will not become more of a problem. But it's enough that one person has put planters in their circular driveway to keep people from tearing up his yard and barreling through his circular driveway like a bat out of hell.
I've had people come to the backyard and do 3-point turns.
I believe that. I absolutely believe that from some of the reports.
Sitting in the backyard and having somebody come there and wave at me and.
Alderman Whitmire.
So I guess I just have a question for the applicant around the design of the fence of the gate itself. From the drawing, it would appear it's an approximately 48-inch gate. Is that correct, with a slight gap underneath of it?
Correct.
It's the bit, and then in the drawing, the elevation, it shows some below grade stuff that's going on. So I'm going to ignore that. So it's a pretty open fence design. Is that correct? Or an open
Correct.
gate design? Thank you very much.
Commissioner White, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. I fully sympathize with the applicant on this matter. Of course, I use this road frequently myself, and he surely is very exposed to this kind of abuse. Even if it wasn't circular, people would maybe turn around in there, but being a circular road, and it seems from what he says, it's even far worse than I could have imagined. My concerns with it, however, are we know that 25-foot setback. Do I understand the gate itself will be even further back than that?
It is yet to be installed. If there's a concern, I can go back a little further. I mean, I only went 25 feet back to meet code, but being that we haven't put any pillars in or anything, You know, if you have a
Well-
concern about that depth, that would be no problem going back a little further.
Yeah, my two concerns are related to that, in as much that delivery vans, of course, will turn in.
Correct.
I have a big concern with that. I was fortunate enough to learn my driving where one always reversed into the side street so that you could go forwards into the main street. This is not the usual case here. And I'm worried that delivery vans will turn into the street, into the driveway, get to the gate and then back out again into Clayton Road, where the visibility when you're backing out is not so good. Will they in fact have access through the gate and out around the circular driveway and back out onto the street?
Well, if the gate were closed, they would only have their 25-foot setback to the white stripe. There's about 3 feet between the white stripe and the shoulder. If the city desired me to put that back another, foot or 2 or 3, being that it hasn't been installed yet, I would basically have no problem with that.
Mr. Spencer.
Mr. Chairman, just for clarification, the gate as proposed is 25 feet from the property line. It's actually significantly further from the edge of pavement with Clayton. If you're looking at the site plan, the left gate is about 50 feet. The right gate is about 40 feet because the road has kind of an angle there. So that's a significant amount of space for any delivery truck to at least be off the roadway and not in traffic, if you will.
And I would be a little concerned with changing. I mean, we have an ordinance here that we should follow. So trying to make exceptions and make it more burdensome from somebody doesn't seem like a reasonable thing to do to me, but that would be an option that you'd have Commissioner White to add that as a condition.
No.
Go ahead.
I appreciate both your comments and I do not want to make an amendment.
Okay. Any other discussion, comments, questions? I believe we have a motion. I believe we have a motion on the table. Is that correct, Laura?
Yes, that is correct.
So would you please call roll?
Mr. Malin Smith,
Aye.
Dr. O'Mell,
Aye.
Mayor Ream,
Aye.
Vice Chair McKnight,
Yes.
Mr. Bolazina,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Aye.
and Alderman Whitmire.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schneider, for being here. And we will see you again at the Board of Aldermen meeting. So
Thank you. Have a good evening.
on to conditional use permit. Our fourth item for the night, a request has been made by Dr. Amy Roberts, applicant for approval of a conditional use permit for a medical office or clinic with direct outside access to be located at 272 Lamp and Lantern Village in the Commercial Zoning District. Do I have a presenter?
Hi, I'm Amy Roberts, and thank you for having me here tonight.
Dr. Roberts, welcome. Can you please give your name and address so we can have it for the record? Your full name and address.
I'm Amy Roberts, and I live at 1 Lochinvar Drive here in Town and Country. And my hope is the 272 that I fervently hope to have an office at 272 Lamp and Lantern.
Perfect. Thank you. Do I have questions? So do you want to just do a quick overview of why you're here and just kind of talk through the CUP that you're asking for tonight?
Yeah, thank you. My hope is to open a small personalized concierge medical practice to provide just quality healthcare to members of our community. The premise of concierge medicine is to provide longer, more flexible appointment times to patients with more of a focus on quality of care and not seeing necessarily a large volume of patients at once. I really hope that this business will be a positive addition to our community, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have, and I look forward to the opportunity to work with you.
Are there any questions from the commission for Dr. Roberts? I would entertain a motion to approve a CUP to start the discussion.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. O'Mell. I'm assuming when you say so moved, you're saying that you would move to approve this with conditions A through F in place?
You are correct.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Bolizia, Commissioner Bolizia. All right, questions or comments?
Well, my comment is welcome. Welcome. I think this is fabulous. You know, we had a hearing about a emergency care that didn't go so well, but this is pretty welcome in my opinion.
That is wonderful to hear. Thank you.
Commissioner Malin-Smith.
And Dr. Roberts, I'm also very excited and delighted that you're here. And I think it's important to note that you are a current Town and Country resident and chose to stay close. So thank you for that.
Correct. I live here in Town and Country and I'm thrilled at the opportunity to potentially have an office here locally.
Your commute's rather short. You could possibly walk.
Yes, it will be great.
Good for you.
Quick clarification for Mr. Spencer. This CUP is on our plate primarily because this office has a direct access to outside, correct? So not going into a lobby?
Correct. The commercial district separates medical offices into two types. As a permitted use, it has to be in a building 2 stories or higher with an interior lobby, like an office building. And as a conditional use, other medical uses if they have direct access to the outside, which is the case here.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Alderman Whitmer.
So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So I really like this idea a whole lot in general. At the same time, I would have a couple of questions. One is for staff. You know, the economic consequences of this. This is a commercial building that's really meant for a retail site that should be generating tax revenue. And what are the potential downside consequences of this idea? And then I'll have a follow-up question after that, unrelated to a staff question, if I could.
Certainly from an economic standpoint, compared to retail, it's not the same. There's no sales tax derived or a business license fee because it's a licensed medical practitioner. There would be a one-time upfront building permit fee with the interior remodel, but you're correct. It's apples and oranges when compared to you know, retail sales tax type use. We do have other offices in this center, and the owner, Jim Otis Jr., is in full support of this. But you're correct; it's not an equivalent in terms of the city's bottom line.
And if I may follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Absolutely.
So a follow-up question, Ryan, would be, do you have any idea how long this site has been open, this particular space has been available?
The previous tenant was Full of Bunnies, which was a boutique gift floral store. I want to say they vacated a few years ago, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Laura, am I right?
I believe it's been a few years, at least 2 that I know of.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bolizia.
The workup says 2019.
Okay. Good job, Pastor Ryan. Yes.
Remember that now.
Any other questions? Any other questions, comments? Alderman Whitmire.
Yeah, just one more, and this may be, this may be a question to the applicant, but and maybe also to staff, and that's to, as I said, I like the idea of concierge care, especially for our population. They can afford it, and it's probably something that they want. At the same time, what control do we have to keep this medical practice from transitioning to a less attractive form of care? And you know, a dialysis clinic or, you know, methadone clinic or, you know, something else that we really don't want in the neighborhood. And I recognize that is not your field of practice. That's not my point, right? I don't see you ever doing that, but I'm trying to understand how we maintain control over this site. Right now, your practice is very attractive.
Mr. Spencer?
We could
Sir.
certainly place a condition that strictly limits the type of medical use. The city attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, you know, something of the nature, medical office that's appointment only and is not considered a clinic by definition would severely limit the types of uses. You know, it couldn't be an urgent care, it couldn't be a methadone clinic or dialysis clinic or any of those other kind of practices that potentially have overnight patients and so forth. I think that's one way to do it. You know, you could also limit hours of operation and number of employees that prevent it from being expanded to something more robust. If a new owner were to take over the CUP, they would have to get that amended before this body and the Board of Aldermen. So there's a couple options.
Yeah, and Mr. Vice Chairman, I think that's an appropriate way of handling it because, you know, when you look at the criteria you have to consider when you're, you know, looking at a CUP, things such as, you know, the taxation of services and or overtaxing of, you know, and traffic and things like that. So obviously the different types of medical have pretty different demands on traffic and things like that. So I think a condition would be an appropriate way to handle it if you all see fit.
Does anyone have a suggestion for a condition they would like to recommend to propose?
I'm working on it.
Alderman Whitmire, do you have one in
That's
mind?
okay. If Dennis is working on it, go for
All
it. I think he was taking notes.
While Dennis is working on it, or while Commissioner Bolzina is working on it, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Malin Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While at least maybe two people are working on it, I would suggest we invite Dr. Roberts to also give thought, since she's the one closest to her profession, as to what would make sense to be consistent with Alderman Whitmire's concerns. So I would urge her to input into this discussion.
Thank you. The intent and exactly with concierge or a medical practice, it would be by appointment only largely. Now, sometimes people might call and ask to be seen the same day, but it would be largely something that would be hopefully a pre-planned meeting and interaction. I do understand the concern about not wanting to expand to something else, and it would not be acting as an urgent visit center or any high volume capacity. I do know a lot of concierge docs, and I have not gotten to the step, just to answer about the taxation. They end up getting a vendor's license. Some of them will sell basic products if clients so desire, such as Retin-A products or things like that, which I think then might potentially generate a little bit, obviously not the same degree as another local shop, but potentially some revenue from that standpoint. Was the one other thought that was suggested that I had by my consultant that helps people open concierge practices.
Okay. Well, let's put our collective heads together and see. Dennis, do you have an idea so far?
I'm almost there.
Okay. He's typing away there, or writing away. Commissioner O'Mell.
So Dennis, you have to make sure that it includes a situation where the office subsequently becomes an MRI center. I think there was an MRI center next to Rich and Charlie's. I don't know if it's still there, but that's a different center, I think. But however you come up with this, so the MRI is done by appointment, doesn't require a lot more parking, etc. There are also some difficulties with the magnet.
Well, could you use the terminology concierge medical practice as part of that? Because that would, to me, take out some of those things. I don't know, Dennis, do you have something to work up?
Yeah,
Commissioner
yeah.
Bolazinos, my apologies.
I have a wording, but before I get there, I want some clarification. I'm reluctant, and Ed, you have something to say?
Yeah, sorry. At the risk of putting a fly in the works, we do have a definition of clinic as well. So obviously we need to be cognizant of that. Our definition of clinic is an establishment where patients who are not lodged overnight are admitted for examination and treatment by a group of physicians or dentists or other professional medical persons. The word clinic is used here and shall include a veterinary clinic. So just be cognizant that's the current definition of clinic if you want to use clinic in.
No, I don't think that helps me too much. Does it you, doctor? I don't think that helps you, doctor. But I don't think I want to go as granular as to say what kind of equipment you can have, whether you can have an MRI or not, or that. I think that would be pretty granular.
We wouldn't have any imaging. The office space wouldn't be set up one for electrical, and for an MRI, there's a lot of other special requirements doing. So there would be no diagnostic imaging. My goal would be to partner with some of the local imaging centers, but not do any actual imaging there. And again, it just wouldn't be suitable to have any imaging in that office space. So.
Commissioner Bolazinos, if I could preempt her just a second, I think the mayor's trying to make a point here too.
I think I would appreciate the mayor's additional information.
Just a couple thoughts. One is that I certainly wouldn't worry about an MRI going in there. I mean, if you've ever been around an MRI vault, that whole building would have to be knocked down and concrete 3 foot thick. That's quite a, you don't just transform a building into an MRI center. So I think that's pretty much off the table. I guess the other question I had is in terms of other practices or other even businesses in town and country, especially smaller ones, do we have anything in when we grant them a permit that they can't transition to some other business? I'm wondering if we're being a little bit over the top on that. And I probably defer that to the attorney, frankly.
So yeah, if something is an outright permitted use, then the answer is certainly no, because it's under our code, it's something that's permitted. The conditional use permits, it is something that has been done on occasion, certainly, but it's not, it's kind of up to the discretion of this commission, then ultimately the board as well, to determine whether that condition would be a reasonable ask. So you have kind of full discretion. You don't have to, but you are allowed to, if that makes sense.
Right. Thank you.
Commissioner Bolazinos.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to remind us that when the code and our ordinances make the conscious decision to make certain uses conditional use permits, it is precisely because we don't want them to be an unfettered permitted use, but we want to allow this commission and the Board of Aldermen to have a view of the character of the business and to be able to make certain decisions and conditions that are appropriate to the character of the business as we see it. So, the fact that it is before us as a conditional use permit makes us look at the character of the business and apply those conditions that we think are appropriate. So I've got my condition. It's pretty simple. So the use of the premises shall be limited to a private concierge medical practice by appointment only, with operating hours between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And this is information out of the application. I don't want to hold you to those hours, and be happy to change those hours and, whatever the doctor thinks.
Dr. Roberts, do you have a comment on that?
I wouldn't mind a little bit flexibility. I mean, that would be the general hours, rarely to accommodate. Again, if someone called and needed to be seen, to be able to add them on later in the day or earlier. Sometimes if people had a work meeting or a trip and needed to be accommodated, my hope and intent is to be accessible to them, but obviously it wouldn't be any high volume or large number of people coming in on odd hours.
How about 7 a.m. to
Commissioner
7 p.m.? How about 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
That would be great.
I have a motion on the table before we go to discussion. Do I have a second for that motion?
I see a hand. The mayor had his hand up.
But we're in the middle of trying to second a motion. So Mayor, do we want to interrupt this process? Mayor, do you have a recommendation?
Just very briefly, that I could see a time where we say 7 to 9 in the morning or whenever. I could see a time though on Saturday morning, she might get a call from somebody, and especially if you're in a concierge practice who says, hey, I've got this unusual headache. I think I've got something going on. Can you look at me now? I just think it should be, I mean, I do that now in my own office on a Saturday, and even though the building's closed, I think I would like to allow for a little more flexibility to see. These will be few and far between, but a little bit more flexibility for her to see an emergent case, I think would be desirable.
Okay, before we go to a second, Commissioner White.
Well, I think keep the original wording, and I suggest we say plus any exceptional circumstances.
Commissioner Bolzino, do you want to take another stab at it, or do you want to?
Okay, I want to just change my motion, and I don't think we need to be too difficult here. I will change it from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
No, I would, because
that's my amendment.
On Sunday.
So we have a motion on the table. We can amend that motion when we have it. Do I have a second for the motion that's been put on the table?
Second.
Seconded. Who seconded that? Who did that? Is it Dr. Amell?
And
No, it was Mayor
Ream.
Ream. Okay, thank you. All right, I have a motion on the table that limits this to a, I think primarily we're focused on timing. Yeah, go ahead, Dennis. Remind us again what it is.
Private concierge medical practice by appointment only, with operating hours between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday.
Okay. Do I have discussion on that amendment?
Quick question. Say, for example,
sure.
Someone did call and say, I have the worst headache of my life on a Sunday. And I said, okay, can I meet you? Would I get in trouble if it was the exception? Is that something that's acceptable, I guess? Because that is a valid point. The hope is that will not happen frequently, but unfortunately in healthcare, sometimes things do happen. And the whole premise is wanting to be available and accessible to people.
I don't work Sundays, so you're not in trouble with me.
No, you go to the doctor.
Do I have any suggested amendments, or we want to stick with what we have? Commissioner Malin Smith.
I'm going to borrow on Commissioner White's suggestion and ask Commissioner Bolzino about adding a phrase or an additional sentence that says something about under extreme or exceptional client-initiated needs.
Does someone want to make that into a motion for a change, or Commissioner Bolzino, you want to reconsider that or restate that?
I'm still typing again. Good thing we have word processing.
So from a point of order, the option would be a motion to amend the amendment.
Motion to amend.
Or if Commissioner Bolzino wanted to voluntarily amend his amendment on the floor, both would be acceptable ways to go. Yeah,
thank you. Alderman Whitmire.
So if Dennis is still thinking, I have a question, but if Dennis is ready, I'll defer. So is the definition of concierge medical practice, is that a defined thing? I mean, is that a legal term?
I can say it's not defined in our code. I would defer to the many people on this call more qualified in medical circles.
I think we all have a preconceived notion as to what it is, but I mean, can anybody call whatever they do a concierge medical practice if they so desire?
Mayor Reem, you have a comment there?
Just, I would say that in general, it has its own society, its own support groups. And I think for those of us who are not in concierge medicine, we recognize that as a subspecialty of physicians who practice the medicine as Dr. Roberts explained that she does. And I don't know if it has an official standing with the American College of Physicians or the AMA, but it is certainly well accepted in medical practices and in medical society as a whole that this is a subgroup of primary care medicine. And so I think, I don't think there's a doctor in America who wouldn't know what concierge medicine is all about.
Okay. So where we are right now, I have an amendment with a condition and a condition G that was defined by Commissioner Bolazina. Do I have either a reconsideration by Commissioner Bolazina that he wants to resubmit that, or an amendment to that amendment?
I have a reconsideration. Okay.
I guess technically you would be
I'm
withdrawing your motion
yes,
and creating
yes.
a new motion.
I'm withdrawing my motion and we'll try it one more time.
Okay.
Use of the premises shall be limited to a private concierge medical practice by appointment only, with operating hours between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and such other times on Sunday as necessary for emergency patients.
Right.
Commissioner White. Oh, do I have a second?
Well,
I'll second.
Second by Mayor Reem. Commissioner White.
well, I would certainly defer to Dr. Roberts, but that still limits her ability to go in the middle of the night on a Tuesday at 2 a.m. in the morning.
No, it was such other times on Sunday.
I know, but
Yeah.
she may want to go at 2 o'clock in the morning.
So Commissioner White, would you like to make an amendment to Commissioner Bolazina's amendment?
Well, I haven't written anything down yet, but I would suggest that the hours be between her original request, which I've 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and such other times as in exceptional circumstances, as needed by clients.
As needed by what?
Clients.
Okay, thank you.
She has a limited practice. You and I couldn't go unless we're one of her clients. So that gives adequate protection if protection's needed, that it will not explode into a emergency care, urgent care center.
So do I have a second to Commissioner White's amendment to Commissioner Bolazina's amendment?
I'll second that.
Mayor Reem second that. So the hours are now 9 to 4, except in exceptional circumstances driven by the clients. Comments and discussion. It's not that way. That's the proposal. That's not the what's on it. So Commissioner Malin Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to go back to Dr. Roberts and re-invite her input. I do believe that Commissioner White's suggestion is a good one, meaning that you should be enabled or allowed to see a patient at virtually any time if that patient's emergency is such that the patient needs to see you and has so requested. So what is your thoughts, Doctor, about what Commissioner White was proposing, which is the hours that you prescribed, but with the provision that you should be allowed to see a client, a patient, at any time if the client's needs so warrant?
I would very much appreciate that added flexibility just in case that situation ever arose. So the hope would be to use more of the main office hours. But I do appreciate that added just in case at the discretion, if there was a situation that arose, whether it was Monday at 8 p.m. or Sunday at 10, to have that ability in case it was needed.
And I guess my question to you, Dr. Roberts, is the change that Commissioner White made was to move it to a 9 to 4 time. Do you see a time that you would want to extend your hours that would be a problem for defining it in the CUP that way?
Maybe we could do a little more like 8 to 5, just to give it more standard hours. Was that reasonable with the flexibility beyond?
I would need a motion from a commissioner to amend the amended amendment. We're going in the weeds now.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
I would suggest, if Commissioner White is open to it, to making that suggestion, because then we have too many stacked motions.
Commissioner White, would you like to would you like to withdraw your amendment and then add it and modify it and put it back in?
Yes, but I didn't write it down, but I will say from our 8 to 5.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And does Mayor Ream second that?
Is that seconded?
Second that, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Commissioner Malin Smith.
Thank you. So for the good of the lodge, what perhaps Laura, you could read the amendment, because I believe it still embodies key provisions from Commissioner Bolazina.
Give me 1 minute.
Could you take a shot at it? Yeah.
This use shall be limited to a private concierge medical practice by appointment only between the hours of 8 a.m. through 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and such other times by exceptional basis as needed by a client. That is the full motion as it stands.
So the modified hours and the exceptional clause are the one that we're voting on right now, which is it's Commissioner
Correct.
White's amendment.
Yes.
Can I get a voice vote as to whether we approve that or not? All in favor of the amendment to Commissioner White's amendment to Commissioner Bolazina's conditional amendment, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Now we're to Commissioner Bolazina's, the final one, and Laura, you just read that, so this would be on that. Is there any other discussion on that? That proposed condition?
I mean, there were a few words in the translation that maybe are important, but I did say operating hours between 8 and 5 may be important, just to clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Laura, could you read that one more time for us so we can get a good idea of what we're going to vote on here? Sorry, I'm going to do it to you.
Okay. Hold on. This use shall be limited to a private concierge medical practice by appointment only, with the operating hours between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and such other times as an exceptional basis as needed by a client.
I can just scrivener that a little bit. It would be such other times, comma, on an exceptional basis, comma, for emergency patients. Right.
All right, is everyone clear on that? And are there any comments, any other questions or comments on that?
Sorry,
Commissioner White.
Commissioner Bolazina, did you say exceptional patients or basis?
On an exceptional basis.
Thank you.
For emergency patients.
Okay. Is everybody comfortable with that? Any questions, any comments? All right. Laura, would you please call roll on that?
I'm sorry, just to clarify, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely, go ahead.
We're voting on this modification to the What are we
We're
doing?
voting to add condition G.
Thank you. Just, that's fine. Okay.
So actually, I could probably just do that by voice vote, could I not?
Excuse me.
Go ahead, Commissioner White.
Sorry, I'm still struggling with the understanding the words. The last two words, Commissioner Bolazina, are exceptional patience.
That is the wording that you used, Mr. White.
BASIS.
On an exceptional basis. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All in favor of adding condition G to this conditional use permit, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. We're back to the conditional use permit with conditions A through G. Are there any additional comments or questions?
I feel like we're approving a dental office with this kind of excruciating extraction.
I need a concierge doctor.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Laura, would you please take roll on the approval of the CUP?
Dr. O'Mell,
Aye.
Alderman Whitmire,
Aye.
Vice Chair McKnight,
Yes.
Mr. Bolazina,
Yes.
Mayor Reem,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Aye.
and Mr. Malin Smith.
Aye.
The motion carries unanimously.
I see no other business on our schedule. Save for, is there a report from the Board of Aldermen? Alderman Whitmire.
I reviewed the notes from the last 3 meetings and found nothing to report.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn for Dr. O'Mell. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay.